Los Angeles, the writer's strike, Donald Trump, cold sores, and whether or not I'm moving to San Antonio. That's all coming up on this episode of The Mitch Burrow Show. All right, y'all. Well, this past weekend, I went to Los Angeles, and I performed on a bunch of shows. Let's see. So I got there Saturday night, and I performed at Don't Tell Comedy. I performed at the Improv. I performed at the Comedy Store. And, yeah, so I performed on 3 shows. Maybe not a bunch, but it felt like a bunch. And it was great. And then Saturday night, I performed at the Improv in the Store again. Oh, no, sorry. My name was on the marquee for the show at the Store, or for the show at the Improv on Saturday night. But that show got canceled. The show that my name was on the marquee for got canceled. I'm sorry. But then I had 2 shows at the Comedy Store. One of them was just a showcase show, and then the other one, I was hosting the Show Up, Go Up open mic, where basically it's like an audition to perform on Potluck, which is another open mic. And then finally, Monday night, I performed at the Comedy Store. I hosted Potluck, which was great. So I'll get into that a little bit. The Improv was so much fun. Punky Johnson was there. She's one of my wife's best friends, so it was great for my wife to see her performing. And I honestly, like, she was one of my favorite people to see at the Comedy Store, and to see how much has changed with her and what she's doing now. It's very exciting to see. I mean, she's always been good. So when I say grow, I don't mean like she's a better comedian than she was before. It's just that the material that she's doing now is different to what she was doing before, so it's a lot of fun. And then after her was Doug Benson, and then I had to follow Doug Benson. So it's always interesting to follow someone way more famous than you, for a couple reasons. They might not be caring what they're doing, and they're just like, whatever. This show that other people are dying to get on is just kind of like my open mic, or regardless of how well they do, the audience might just be like, this is our favorite comedian, and they just love them. And then when you get up there, they just don't care. I was lucky. This was a great show. It was a great audience. Doug Benson did great. And then I went up there, and the audience was still like, hey, we don't know who this guy is, but let's see how funny he is. And it was so much fun. The show at Don't Tell was right before that, and that one was just intimate. It was like half the size of the Improv, but it's kind of like what you would call a secret show, where there's just an invitation list, I think, and people get their tickets to it through that. And then finally, the show at the Store was like being home, I guess. That was Saturday night, and it was just, I walked in there, and it was like I hadn't been gone for a year and a half. It was so much fun. And then I know that I'm saying fun because the truth is I drank a lot Saturday night, and I'm assuming that it was fun. I might be an alcoholic. That's not something that I'm proud to say. But every time I go out and I drink until I can't remember what I was doing that night, I always wake up the next day and I go, I think I might have a problem. And luckily, it doesn't happen a lot anymore, but it's getting to the point where I'm like, I'm 42 years old. I don't need to black out anymore. And, it's funny because Saturday night I went out and I drove and I didn't drink at all. And then Saturday night, I got a ride with somebody, and I was just like, let's see how far we can go. And I went all the way. It was, all the way up until I blacked out. It was a lot of fun. So I'm assuming the rest of it was fun too. But there's just got to be a better way to enjoy alcohol than what I'm doing. Because I tell you, the next day, I didn't enjoy it at all. What I do remember is that I got my friend Jessica Wellington to give me a ride home. And I convinced her to stop at a Wendy's on the way, and your boy got a Frosty, and it was amazing. Frosty might be the best. I know Dairy Queen's got the Blizzard, but hands down, Frosty's where it's at. While we were there, my wife and I met up with our old landlord, and we apparently he's the mayor of a town that he lives in, which we had no idea. And they told us to meet him for brunch somewhere over in wherever that place Kim Kardashian lives. So we went there and had brunch. And then while we were there, a cop comes by, and over their speaker in their car, they're like, "Lock your doors, stay inside." And so our old landlord called up the chief of police because he kind of works for him, I guess. And he was like, "What's going on?" There were like machete wielding criminals like running up and down the street. It was the craziest thing. I completely forgot about where Los Angeles was at in crime right now. It's kind of insane that you have this place. It's wherever the Kardashians live, but there's just people running around with machetes. Like that's like stuff that you think of in a third world country where, it's just kind of like, no law because people are doing whatever they can to survive, not Malibu. So it was kind of a nice reminder of why we left LA. I'm not saying all of LA is like that. I'm not trying to be some fear-mongering, the liberals ruined Los Angeles. Los Angeles is great. But there are some things going on there that make you go, oh, maybe, they could clean this up a little bit. Because, you spend a lot of money to live there. You shouldn't have to worry about getting murdered by somebody with a machete while you're having brunch. I don't think that's too much to ask for. Now, here's the worst part. So Sunday night was the night that I got really drunk. Saturday night was the night that I drove and didn't have anything. And that night, I had the car keys for the vehicle that I drove to the airport in my pocket, and I handed them to my wife before I went on stage, and I was like, "Here, can you hold on to these?" I forgot that I did that. And then she flew back to Texas a day before me with those keys in her pocket, and I had to call her and be like, "Hey, I can't find the keys. I need you to put them I need you to put your set in the car for me." So she had to pick up her vehicle, then drive to the one that I was in and put her set of keys in there for me so that I could land. And thank God that I got her like right as she was landing, because I don't know what I would have done if I landed in Dallas and didn't have keys to get. I imagine that's a very expensive Uber ride. It's probably like whatever Uber costs to get from LAX to Hollywood. But still, it's not something that I wanted to deal with. This is one of those things where I'm talking about where I'm like, why am I saying this? Why would I think that someone would want to hear about me losing my keys? I thought that the fact that I was sober and that's when I lost them would be interesting. But as I'm saying it out loud, I'm like, this is the most uninteresting topic that I could have brought up. So let's move on to the writer's strike. Oh man, you have an idea, you write it down on paper, you're like, hey, this is going to be fun to talk about. And it's not. All right, so Writers Guild of America, WGA, they're on strike. Okay, and the reason that they're on strike is because the whole system of how you write in Hollywood has changed, and they want to be fairly compensated for it. Now, I left Los Angeles. And now I'm in a different kind of union. I'm in an aerospace workers union. It's the International Aerospace and Machinist Union or something like that. But I dig unions. When I was a manager and I had union employees that worked for me, I still thought like, hey, this is a good thing for the employees. And also it's a good thing for the managers because that contract just lays shit out. Puts it all out there on the line and it goes, hey, this is what you can and can't do. There's rules, and it makes your job managing a lot easier. So in a situation where it's like the Writers Guild, it's more like pay scales and things like that. And this one, the reason that they're upset is because the way that the system used to work is completely different from the residuals because of, like how reruns run on television where versus what they're doing with streaming now. The length of seasons, where you used to have like 24 episodes of a show. Now most shows are 8 to 10 episodes. Now studios have like mini writers rooms instead of having a staff of writers. Like when you became a writer in Hollywood, before you were starting a career in Hollywood, you would go from one season of a show to the next. You'd have, because it was called a season, because you'd have like the fall season and then the spring season. You know, like it wasn't just every year a season came out. It legitimately came out in seasons. So you'd have like 24 episodes in the beginning of the year and then 24 episodes at the end of the year. And you had like a legitimate career that you could rely on. Now it's almost like Uber for TV shows, where you have a show on Netflix that's 10 episodes, you get that, and now you're just throwing out all the emails and requests and pulling all the favors of friends owe you to get on the next show. And, you know, whatever the pay scale is, 10 episodes ain't enough. I did a TV show where I was hosting something, and it was on New Media. It was a streaming network. I thought, you know, I looked up the SAG contract. I thought I was going to be getting $5,000 an episode. It turned out it was on like $1,100 an episode. So with New Media and things of that nature, you're cutting people's salary in half. You're not doing as many episodes. Like, writers aren't making money writing anymore. It's not enough. Now I'm personally on the Writers Guild side, because a strike, it just means more time for unemployed writers to have on their hands. And when unemployed writers have free time, they go to mics and they try and do stand-up comedy, and it takes precious stage time away from real comedians. And we don't want that. Okay? You want your unknown comics who are working and really funny to get as much stage time as they can, without some asshole that's writing for you on Netflix to be going up there and stealing 3 minutes of stage time, but turning it into 5 minutes because he doesn't really understand the respect that needs to be given to the light. Okay? So let's end this strike before something bad happens, like writers performing stand-up comedy. Even worse than that, Even worse than that, the audience is going to be who hurts the most, okay? Because even after the strike is over, some shows just never recover, right? Like, do you remember Heroes? Heroes was supposed to be the next Lost, but instead it became the next. Actually, it didn't become the next anything. It became the first Heroes. It fell so hard. No other show had done that before. That its first season, it was critically acclaimed. Audiences loved it. It was going to be the best show ever. And then the writers went on strike, and they came back, and they just couldn't figure out how to get any of that magic back. It became just terrible. Like no other show in history had ever been so high and fell so low. So all I can say is, if this writer strike ruined Severance for me, then I'm just going to give up, hand over life to my innie, and forget any of this stuff ever happened. Okay? Now, Donald Trump. Wow. What a week. He's being taken to civil court for sexually assaulting or raping a woman. Her name is E. Jean Carroll, and he's saying that he didn't do it, but oh boy, it's not looking good. Here's what I think is this is what's crazy. Donald Trump is 76 years old. That's how old Cosby was when Hannibal Buress called him out and everything fell down on top of him. Basically, we no longer have the 27 Club. We now have the 76 Club, where the 27 Club was where all the musicians died before they were able to turn 28. Now, all the old predators are getting their comeuppance when they turn 76. So it's a pretty good thing. I wish we didn't have to wait so long. You know, I wish that as soon as someone did something bad, We could go, hey, you've been naughty, time to go to jail, or something like that. But this thing with Trump, it's not looking great for him. I think he's probably going to lose a lot of money. He's an idiot. He said that E. Jean Carroll wasn't his type. He got a deposition, and he said those words, and then they put a picture in front of him, and they were like, who's this woman? And he goes, oh, I think that's my wife. And they were like, no, that's the E. Jean Carroll. So not only was she your type, she was the type that you would have married. So, that definitely doesn't look good for his so-called defense. He didn't show up to testify in New York. Instead, I think he was playing golf in Ireland or Scotland or something. But apparently, in a civil trial, the Fifth Amendment doesn't really work because the jury can take into consideration the fact that you're not defending yourself into their judgment and think that it just makes you look more guilty. When he was depositioned, he said that he goes, well, that's just how it's been for the last million years. I love that he said a million years. That's how it's been for the last million years. You can just grab women by their genitals, and then he goes, yeah, and that's just how it's been. Unfortunately, or fortunately, you think it might be fortunate that rich, successful movie stars have just been able to grab women by their vagina? That sounds to me like a man who's been grabbing women by their vaginas without consent and going, man, it sure am lucky that I can do that. Boy, what a world we live in, Because he said, fortunately. I think if he just ended with like, yep, unfortunately, that's just, the way it's been. But maybe by saying fortunately, he puts out there something where it's like, oh, I didn't think that what I was doing was wrong. I was like, fortunately, I'm able to do this. Or so. I don't know. I think I'm thinking too far into it. All these Trump supporters have always said, oh, he's out here playing 4D chess. I don't know, man. I think he just said something dumb, and now he's going to pay for it, Well, I got some bad news. I got a cold sore on my lip. Some people might know it as face herpes, and it sucks. It doesn't bother me, but it just looks really bad. So my wife was like, hey, have you put any medicine on it? I'm like, no, absolutely not, because the medicine doesn't work. The medicine has never made it heal better. The medicine is like putting lip gloss just on that one spot. And so I don't think it's a cure. I think it's a deterrent. I think what the medicine is really doing is just showing everybody that you have something gross on your lip right here and to stay as far away as possible. When you got a cold sore, people don't just not want to drink after you. People don't want to just not kiss you. People don't want to look at you. That's how bad cold sores are. And what's really crazy is, like, you think so many people have it, but then even a person who gets them sometimes sees you with a cold sore, and they're like, I can't be associated with this right now. It's almost like someone who's on probation, and they run into an old friend, and they have charges on them, and they're like, hey man, like I just got off a probation. I can't risk getting in trouble again. So like we can't be associated right now. That's what it's like. Cause it's like, hey man, people have seen, I just don't need people being reminded that I also get cold sore. So why don't you just call me in like 3 weeks? We'll catch up or whatever. So if you see me, just you can look me in the eyes and say, hey man, it's good seeing you. Hope things are going well. And then just don't drink after me. Everything will be fine. Okay? So lastly, I just want to talk about San Antonio. I have my interview tomorrow with Boeing to see if I'm going to get hired back on. The way the contractor person talked to me, it's basically like, hey, if you make it to this point, you're going to get the offer. Unfortunately, I don't think I can take it. It's good money, but it's bad benefits money. And I'm trying to figure out how I can justify this with my, the whole reason I took this job and left LA is so I could give my daughter like a better life with medical insurance and stuff like that. So I do think the move to San Antonio would be a lot of fun. I just don't think that I can do it without, like, I need some security for my family. My wife's pastry business is going great. So I'd be asking her to move again, which she's already like, please don't do this to me. Like, I love you and I want to support you, but please don't ask me to move again after we've only been here for 2 years, which I get. But there's just a lot of things going against it right now. So maybe I'll talk to him tomorrow. Maybe I'll find out there's, other good reasons why I should accept the position. But right now it looks like honestly, it's like one of the best opportunities that's coming up about it, because it's good pay and it's got per diem, which is like half of the pay. But the cost of insurance is just so astronomically high, and the insurance that they offer is hardly anything. So I don't know what I'm going to do. I will keep you posted. I mean, luckily I can still, travel down to Austin, do my shows. I can fly to Los Angeles and do some shows. Like, I'm still going strong. I just want to get to where I can do it like all the time. And it's hard to do that here with the work shift that I'm on and with being so far away from an established stand-up comedy community. But we'll see what happens. I got my show Liquid Laughs happening here on June 3rd. I'm hoping that builds into something bigger and better. So we'll see what happens. If you happen to be in Wichita Falls and you're watching this, buy a ticket, wichitafalls.eventbrite.com. I need your support. Come out, watch the show. Dylan Sullivan's going to be headlining or co-headlining. Dylan Sullivan's going to be there. I haven't figured out which one of us is going to go last yet, but Dylan Sullivan is going to be there. He was on Comedy Central. He's a regular at Joe Rogan's Club. We performed together and worked together at the Comedy Store. He's great. So I'm really excited, and I hope to see you there. All right? Anyway, that's it for this episode. My other camera shut off on me, so I got to end it anyway. I'll see you next week, or maybe later this week. I still haven't figured out how I'm doing this. All right, peace. Peace. All right, I'll see you later. Okay, y'all, thanks for watching.